Hey everybody, this is Tyson.
And Logan.
And you're listening to Dad, Bods, and Beards podcast. It's a show that gives you a fresh look on being a father, a husband, and honestly, a man being in today's world.
For people who want to have a good time, laugh, and be uplifted, thanks for subscribing and listening. Now for the show.
All right, so today's episode on Dad, Bods, and Beards, we have Erik Thompson and his brother Bryant, and I'm looking forward to this. This is something that I think is going to be near and dear to many people's hearts. But before we start, Erik and Bryant, why don't you guys introduce yourself? Let everyone know kind of who you are and maybe why you're here.
I'm Erik, and I'm the current head football coach at Ogden High. I've been there 8 years. Before that, I was in Northridge for 19, and been a high school football coach for quite a long time now. And recently, got ALS about 6 years ago, and was diagnosed 3 years ago, and so living that battle every day and trying to still impact people's lives, and it's really been a thing that's physically harder than I thought it would ever be, and definitely wants to break your will every day. But the blessings that have come into my life since then, and the amount of people that have helped their family out, and I think the opportunities for influencing and impacting others in a positive way have increased. So we're very humbled and grateful for those opportunities and all the many things that help kind of counter and balance out, tender mercies, if you would, that help our family not just survive this, but thrive and continue to enjoy life and try to serve and help others. So, Bri, you got it. And this is my brother, by the way. I kind of asked that he would come, and yeah. So if you're trying to get me to cry early, you can have me talk about him. But, he's the wisest, kindest, most loyal, and people would know this. Pretty dang funny.
They would know it.
People that I know. And certainly if I, there's nothing, if I needed my brother's help. And, he's proven that over the years and continues to. Someone who's always there for others, and especially always has my back. So there you go, Brian.
Thanks, brother. I'm Bryant. I grew up being called Bri as well, so both work. Erik's my older brother of 4 years. He is my best friend and one of my heroes. I'm a professor at Weber State. I teach organizational behavior and leadership, and it's been a great privilege for me to be part of this journey with Erik. It's been a hard journey. It's been a journey that brings you to your knees. It pulls out tears every day. I can't think of the last day I didn't cry. But it's not always sad tears. Sometimes it's sad, devastating tears of deep sorrow. And often it's happy tears and grateful tears. And, this is an incredible journey. I think we look forward to talking about it and just sharing some of the struggles, the heartbreaks, the ailments in Erik's life that I think Erik has a really compelling story. He is super vulnerable. He is very authentic. I don't know of anybody more vulnerable than Erik. He just shares his story, shares his struggles, shares what makes him happy, what makes him sad. I think in the last couple years that has changed and become sort of a different ballgame for us. But for me, it's a great privilege to be part of this journey, and I consider Erik my best friend and mentor and really one of my heroes.
So,
You forgot to add better looking to that.
Like I said, it's quite the brotherly intro, man.
I was lucky enough to be invited by, I believe, your wife to come see you. We were at Ogden High School, kind of like your introduction of ALS and how it affected your family. And it was 30 minutes long. I wanted it longer. I'm not going to lie. I told my wife, I'm like, I wish it was longer. It wasn't enough. And I'm so grateful that you're here. The one thing that I kind of want to know is, how was he, Bryant, as an older sibling growing up, and because you guys are obviously best friends and you love each other dearly. So how was he growing up?
Yeah, I'm interested to hear this.
We'll get the behind
he
the scenes.
Remember all the bad stuff.
Erik's an amazing brother, and growing up, he doesn't fit your typical profile of the oldest sibling.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of the boss or the one who needs to be in charge or anything like that. He never has been that sibling. He's really a sibling who's full of compassion. He will laugh with you before he'll tell you what to do. He'll cry with you before he scolds you. We've been close all of our lives. We are 4 years apart, but that was close enough to compete every day in playing ball. And our grandparents have a farm out in Blossom, Utah, and we would go out and play on the farm and get in trouble. I was the younger sibling who was usually pretty willing to get in trouble, probably leading the way with trouble. And
yeah, we joked that he was the bad example to me. Even though I was 4 years older, usually if we were getting into a little trouble, it was my little brother's idea, and I was like, yeah, that sounds fun. Let's go.
That's funny.
That's cool, though.
I like that.
Me too.
But we had a really good relationship growing up where I was super competitive and we loved sports, and I didn't take it easy on him. I would try to, beat him all the time. But I wanted it to be fun for him, so I'd always make it be that he thought he had a shot, and I'd try to make it close. And in the end, I would always win, except one time he luckily threw a shot in. But so we grew up kind of competing and wrestling and throwing each other around and all those things. He would hit me in the back of the head and run, and I'd chase him down and try to, beat him up or whatever. But somehow through that, we became, best friends. And I hope that my three boys, because they're kind of in the middle of that right now, right? You got age differences, you get on each other's nerves, and you have different likes and things you're doing. But, and that's one hope I would have for my boys, is if they're best friends with their brothers, eventually like I am, that is such a huge blessing to have in your life, to have so much history with someone that knows you so well and still, loves you and forgives you, and you can be your authentic self with, and, laugh and compete and have lots of, fun stories. So, we kind of joke, my brother and I, that he's my consigliere. I'm kind of the impulsive. I get heated, I get happy, I'm like very emotional, I'm very passionate. And my brother's, very measured and stoic. And whenever I have an issue, I've really found that the first person I call is him and get his advice. And he helps me, process things, and has really helped me grow as a person, really, in the last 3 years, even more than the first. But, so we joke, he's the consigliere, not of just me, but of the family. And he's always got, wise words, which is kind of ironic. We joke that, growing up, I was the goody two-shoes that didn't do anything wrong and wanted to please my parents and tried my best and didn't make mistakes. And and my brother was a hellion and making
Making you drink beer.
all these mistakes, and it was crazy.
Chugging.
And the roles have kind of like reversed as time went on, as I became a little more outgoing, impulsive, and crazy, and he's become very wise and gives great advice. But that's funny, people wouldn't really know. I think we're both kind of half and half. That someone who would meet my brother now wouldn't know of the fun hellion that's inside of him, and and people maybe would meet me now wouldn't know that there was a shy mama's boy inside of me, because I'm a little more brash and confident, and your personalities change throughout experiences. But my best friend's my brother, and I would hope that my 3 sons, that'll eventually be the case with them as well. And what a great benefit and blessing that is to have in your life when your siblings are your best friends. And I have a great relationship with my 2 sisters, Jenny and Kalani, as well. And we were raised in a home that was just an amazing experience, where you knew your parents loved you and treated you like adults and talked to you and gave you choices, and were your biggest supporters. It would help you develop a skill and push you, but at the same time would let you fail and not jump in and try to save you from everything, and kind of let you experience life and learn on your own, with the same time being guided and loved. And so I think it's not by accident that us 4 siblings became such good friends over time, because we were in such a great environment growing up, where there was a lot of fun. My parents are both very authentic and real as well. And I had a great upbringing. My dad was my hero, and he was a coach in high school, and so from as long as I can remember, I wanted to be like him and be a coach. Eventually you go to college and you're doing stuff and you're like, man, I get good grades, I speak Japanese, I want to go make money, I'm not going to be a poor coach like my dad. So I did have like a mid-college crisis where that's the last thing I'm going to do. And actually, when I graduated, I had like 100 hours more than you need to graduate, because I kept going down roads of professions I thought would make me happier because I would make more money, or whatever the case may be. And I coached Roy Junior baseball 1 year as a volunteer and loved it, and changed. And I actually had amazing experience in high school with my dad as my head coach. And then Paul Tidwell at Snow. And then I went to Colorado Mesa to continue to play football, and didn't have as good of experience. So kind of not having that good experience versus the 2 or 3 good ones I had really shaped me to, hey, I think this is what I want to do. I want to go be like these men that really believed in me and shaped me and lifted me up. And I just had so much fun. The teams I was on, there was such a, before Colorado Mesa, a brotherhood of, you messed around and you joked, you had a lot of fun, but there was respect and there was discipline and there was hard work. And, we kind of realized after having both how much time and effort goes into creating a good culture on a team. And it's, to me, more important and more difficult than, the X's and O's and the weightlifting and the skill development. All those things are fun, and I like those and feel I'm good at those too. But I really fell in love with, coaching, and I think that stems a lot from how it was parents had grown up. My dad was a high school teacher and coach. My mom, until she stopped to take care of kids, was a teacher. My brother's a professor. My sister Jenny is a teacher. And my other sister Kalani was a nurse, and now she homeschools her kids, and she's a teacher as well.
Teacher, yeah.
So everyone in our family is a teacher in some way.
Sounds like my family. I'm the only one who's not a seminary teacher.
But you're,
And I have a
you're-
brother. Well,
But
hey,
you are a professor, though. Like,
it's true. I do teach just home base. Okay, you have something that I think it's on your shirt. It says family. Where did this acronym come from? When did you start it? And how has that impacted your life, your family life, and your players? Because I thought that was amazing when I saw that the first time. And
Yeah,
you can tell everyone what it means too.
yeah. So, family. Everyone always talks about in sports, we're a family. Family this or that. So when I saw this acronym and realized what it meant, forget about me, I love you, I decided right then that was something I wanted to, include in the culture and the program at Northridge where I was at the time. I mean, it's been probably, I don't know, 15 years now, but I was looking for new uniform options at Northridge, and I was looking at something with Rutgers because they had similar colors. And I saw on the back of one of their uniforms, kind of in a game, this acronym family.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, we were really pushing, Band of Brothers was kind of our theme, which is good too. But, so I somehow just Googled it and couldn't find it anywhere. And I found some little article that some coach had come up with this saying, 15, 20 years ago. And so I took it then and we kind of made it our own. And, it kept developing over time. And now as we're going through it, we kind of use that as our family's war cry as well. The forget about me, I love you, to, serve others and be there for each other. I teach my team the acronym by the analogy of a redwood tree.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
So yeah, people, like we have redwood trees in all our gear, and it's on the back of our uniforms, and people are like, you're the Tigers, why you got a redwood tree? So to me, that's a reminder to them, that we are family. And to us, that family is similar to a redwood tree where, they're these amazing, beautiful, strong, trees that everyone's in awe of, that, live for so long, and they get through a lot of adversity, and it's hard to kill them. And when you study a redwood tree, the reason they're so, strong and they can survive adversity is because, unlike other trees, they don't have a taproot. They just have, the roots only go down a few feet, and then they go out lateral. So all the roots interconnect with all the redwood trees around them. So if one tree, was struggling with getting water or disease or whatever, the other trees all support it and help. So, to kill one redwood tree, you kind of almost have to kill them all, because they look after each other. In fact, I think in the redwood forest, it's called the brotherhood tree, and they, they talk about and celebrate how these trees, grow and how they thrive is their, the root system. So, whether it's with, my own family or the Thompson Tough family or my football team, that's something that we, talk about and strive to serve one another and be there for each other. As you said, we talked a little early. A lot of people are going through different things. Mine's out in front of everyone because of ALS and, what it does, and the spotlight maybe it brings upon my disease, but, everyone's struggling with something. And I think if we could all do a better job of being aware of that and trying to serve and love other people, and what that really does for us. I found that, when you're in a position of giving and helping, what that does to your own self-esteem and your self-worth and how you feel about yourself, and the happiness that can come through, gratitude and serving others and trying to be a positive influence in other people's life is really, I found so far to me, the best medicine. Whereas with ALS, there's no cure, there's no medicine, there's nothing that slows it down or does anything for you. But to me, the number one thing that brings me, happiness and peace, along with, the relationship with my, Father in heaven, my family, and the love and support I get there, is is when I'm trying to serve and help others and be an example of what the acronym should be. That, even when I found you can be, devastated and sad and afraid, but you can also be happy and fulfilled and peace, and you'll feel courage at the same time, especially if I'm trying to practice gratitude and I'm trying to, serve others. So, Brad, if you want to add anything there, I'll take a
Can I ask a
break
question?
with my voice.
Can I ask a question maybe to you? He hit on gratitude. We have a gratitude, highs, lows, and gratitudes in our family. We do it every night at dinner time.
I listened to that podcast.
Yeah.
I like that.
And so I said gratitude on accident. But gratitude is huge in my family. It's huge with us. I think it's all about perspective. How do you guys have gratitude when your brother, who is your best friend, who you love, is going through something that is devastating? I'm sorry if that's. I don't try to be.
No,
graphic,
I think that's a great question. I think that in Erik's initial reaction to his ALS diagnosis surprised some people, because he went in thinking that he was going to have this ALS diagnosis that meant his life would be over in 2 to 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, you do have ALS, but it's a slower moving strain, and we think you can live 10, 15, 20 years. And his response to that was gratitude. His first response to his ALS diagnosis was gratitude. And I think that one thing I've learned in watching Erik is gratitude doesn't mean that you're happy all the time. It doesn't mean that you're not devastated. In fact, sometimes if we don't really understand what gratitude is, we can step into sort of what I would call toxic gratitude, where we don't feel we can feel sad, we don't feel we can cry, we can't sort of deal with our real emotions. But I think real gratitude is saying, okay, here's some tough stuff that I'm dealing with, and it's hard. Nevertheless, I'm grateful because I have, in our case, we believe we have a God who loves us and knows us. We believe we have a family that's eternal and will be together. Erik said it the other night that I thought was beautiful. He said, and you heard it, he said, my mortal body has ALS, my spirit doesn't.
Wow.
To me, that's why we're grateful, is that our spirit doesn't. And at some point in the future, however long that's going to be, we believe that we will be together as a family, and Erik won't have ALS. And his spirit will be free. And that's not just because of circumstance or random luck. That's because we have a creator who loves us, who created an amazing plan that entails suffering. And suffering sucks. Suffering is really, really hard.
Yeah.
And we cry every day because of suffering. And I would say we're also grateful every day, and grateful that at the same time of feeling some sadness and some hurt and even some anger, those are all healthy emotions to navigate with and to feel and to experience, and not try to sort of put a cap on them and tell them to go away. But it's to say, okay, this is hard. I'm going to still be grateful. And I'm going to we've learned, there's some interesting research on gratitude, that if you are grateful over time, you get better at being grateful.
Yeah.
And you can actually go from episodic gratitude, where it's, I'm grateful for things, to more of a dispositional gratitude that says, I'm grateful in general. And it takes practice. And I think Erik is probably the best leader, exemplar of that I've ever seen, because he faces some hard stuff. We were just talking on the way down that he hurts every day. He's in pain every day. He goes to sleep worried and in pain. He spends the night with some worry and pain, and he wakes up in pain every day. And the pain's only going to get worse over time. And I'm impressed by how much he is grateful. I also would connect gratitude to the experience of awe.
I
And
like that too.
when we feel gratitude and we experience gratitude, our senses become alive. We become more attentive to our environment. And it's really gratitude, in my opinion, and I think this is consistent with what research would say about gratitude, is that it's about what we give our attention to. Right? We're in an environment with good things and bad things going on all the time. Gratitude is simply saying, I'm going to give my attention, my energy, and my focus to good.
Because it doesn't mean the bad stuff's not happening.
It doesn't. You don't ignore the bad. You embrace the bad and say, notwithstanding, I'm
like that.
eyes wide open with this bad. And it's hard and it's painful. And anybody who suffers, and we all suffer, bad comes as a process of this life. And I think that's the joy of this life, actually. And that's the test of this life. And it bolsters us. And the nature of suffering, that we have to battle suffering in this life, I think is one of the great benefits of mortal life.
Yeah.
Is that you have to suffer. And if you can learn to still see the good amid that difficulty, to me, that's where you start to experience awe and just being part of something that's larger than you. It's bigger than you. I've told a story within our family setting a couple of times where Erik, I reached out to him and I asked him, Erik's a brilliant football coach. Anybody who knows him knows that he X's and O's. He is just a brilliant genius.
Won 3 state championships?
As part of the Northridge staff, I was Coach Burnett's assistant. But yeah, definitely to have success in football, it takes a whole staff, and it takes a lot of guys working together. And I was part of a great tradition, a great staff at Northridge, and eventually was able to take over there and have great fond memories of that place. And now at Ogden, the amount of help I need every day to continue to set the culture and run. So yeah, I've been very blessed to just the people that I've rubbed shoulders with and had examples and work with in the football coaching business have been the best of the best, and they're my, become some of my best friends. But yeah, we've had a lot of success over the years, but definitely I found that the joy you get from helping see a young man grow, be a better person, feel like he's seen and heard. Sorry, there's the Jordan crying for you. But that someone feels seen and heard, that they matter, that they can't wait to get to practice, that their brothers are there, that there's someone that's an adult that cares about them, is trying to help them out. So I think that's become the most important part of coaching to me, and something that I really enjoy. And it's much harder to deal with that than to come up with a play that's going to work. But I certainly do believe, though, when you do have a team that buys into that and they're close, it also helps, with the winning part, which and I think that's one of the funny things, is if you were to know me in college and high school when I first started coaching, I was like a maniac of effort and work hard and toughness. I'm get in a fight and win at all costs, and just an ultra competitive person that felt the only way I could be successful is if I was this maniac, because I didn't have the same maybe talent as others. And then you get into coaching and you think that that's what it's about. I'm going to create these other maniacs that lived and watch film and run hard, and we're going to win all these games. And you get going and you realize, man, the joy that I really got out of football wasn't winning a football game. It was the experiences and the relationships with my teammates and my coaches. So how do I, move from, hey, we're going to winning's the number one goal, to creating a positive culture and making an impact is the number one goal. And we're going to also win, because I think those two go hand in hand.
Well, I don't normally sit here very speechless very often, but I've just been like a fly on the wall watching this, and I feel like there's so many things I want to touch on, but the thing that affected me the most just now that you just said is pretty much, you just hit Tyson and our message right on the head, is that we want people to just not feel alone, to feel seen and to feel heard, and understand that like there's, and going back to what you were saying, Brian, like you embrace the suck, like, because life has its challenges, life has its hardships, and you have these moments where you can rise to the occasion, or you can sit there in your grief and just lose yourself. And I think this is why Tyson and I are incredibly grateful that you guys have come on the show, and why we try to have guests just like you guys, and people who have different stories, like my buddy Jordan that you were listening to his episode with us of, we all go through so many different things, but to sit here and get the perspective of somebody who is, on paper, classified as, oh, it's harder, but to hear that you have your own struggles and you have your own battles, and that you're choosing that to inspire other people and to lift up other people. And I haven't heard a single thing out of your mouth. I haven't heard you complain yet, and I've been kind of waiting for it, but I also don't. So I don't know. I'm kind of losing my composure here, because I'm sitting here and thinking of all the things that I complain about on a daily basis, and I'm extremely grateful that you guys are here, because I know that your story and your message, and hearing you talk about your brother, and you talk about your brother and your kids, I love that you said that. Like, I'm in awe and I'm full of gratitude right now, because there is so much to be gained for those of us that have struggles in our own lives, but listening to you and to your story, and the fact that you just sit there and you talk about you're inspiring these. I remember my football coach, and I will remember that guy, forever, because of the times that he inspired me. But the message that you're bringing these kids at such a pivotal point in their life, because we all remember high school.
Oh, we were so dumb.
It sucked at times. It really sucked, because you're trying to go through so much, but to feel like, to have someone in your position, a position of leadership, to have someone in your position as a coach, like you already feel that desire as a player. I remember you want to play, you want to make your coach proud. You want to play hard for, you want to win the game because your coach puts in so much effort to you. But then to feel like your coach truly loves you and cares about you and is there for you and wants you to feel seen and heard and set you up for life it's a new concept for me. So I love that. I'm insanely grateful that you guys are here talking about this.
Thank you. And again, that's where I feel, before you go, Tyson, so blessed is that. How could I be anything but that when, as I mentioned, my father was my coach in high school. My coaches at Snow, the people that I've rubbed arms with and coached with at Northridge and now at Ogden, are those type of men that model that every day, for me as well. So it feels good to be a part of a, collaboration, a team of men that come from all walks of life. We all have our own pain, our own suffering, our own issues, but we're trying to help the 15-year-old versions of us get through it. In fact, my wife and I were talking about this. It's fine getting these podcasts and it's serious and we're crying and stuff. But in general, I'm a pretty easygoing, fun-loving, let's have as much fun as we can. And I mess around with the kids and I compete with my athletes all the time up until when I couldn't anymore. But if I were to think in my life, I would say that 50% of my best friends I coached. So I knew them when they were 15, and I saw the knuckleheads they were. And now they're 35-year-old men with kids. It's kind of a unique, cool perspective where I don't think a lot of people in the world get to see someone who was a knucklehead, who was making all these mistakes, and you're on him and you're mad at him or you're trying to shape him. And then all of a sudden, he's coming over to hang out and eat lunch with you, and he's got his 3 kids. And I have so many people in my life like that it definitely certainly gives you a different perspective to what's really important. And maybe not judge so easily. I think, again, we had a great example. We grew up in a family that was the least judgmental, prejudiced family you could be. All walks of life, what color skin you have, where you come from, how much money, whatever. But I did notice as I started getting into coaching, I did have a little bit of a prejudice, and it was against people who didn't work hard and were slapdicks and screwed around, because I want them to get your shits together and let's be a good player, let's be a good person. And I really have learned through this to have more empathy and realize the amount of suffering and pain I have in my life, I can better, relate to, especially at Ogden, the many kids who are struggling, and put yourself in their shoes, and how can you help them get to that point where they're going to like themselves and be proud of themselves, and they're going to do better in school and graduate and be a good dad and be a good father, and learn to deal with adversity, and learn to see suffering as an opportunity to grow. Again, I feel I've been put in a unique position where I get to see that transformation. A lot of people don't get to see the 15-year-old kid that was a knucklehead and then be best friends with them when they're 35 or 40 or 25 or whatever it is. So, I don't. Sorry, Tyson, to cut you off there, but.
Is it talking?
No.
I'm so enthused
I thought you were
with what
gonna
you said. I
start
love
talk.
what you're saying.
But I think
enthralled
that's
now.
kind of one of the, and my wife would joke, it's also what's kept me. She thinks I act like an 18-year-old since I've,
I have kids. My wife thinks she's raising another.
But what a great job, where I can, you're around 15 to 18-year-olds every day, and you get to see them grow and, have fun with them and immerse yourself in their life and try to help them out. And it's been equally, hopefully, they would say this, but it's been equally important and shaping for me as it has for them.
So we're talking about perception, and this is a question for you and him. How has your diagnosis changed your perspective? And then, for you specifically, and for you, what do you hope that your children see and that you can pass on now that your life has kind of been altered? What are you hoping to show them, or that they learn from you?
Why don't you go first, Brian? I'll rest my voice for a sec.
Okay.
I'll get one second.
Okay.
One thing I've learned is I think suffering, there's a paradox with suffering. We go back to what you said, Logan, on the importance of feeling seen, heard, and just being known. The challenge with suffering, and I think one of the reasons it's so hard, is when you get ALS and you hurt every day and you need a wheelchair to get around and it's hard to talk and you become so dependent on other people, you start to not feel seen. You start to feel a little forgotten. And at the same time, this is where I think it's a paradox. That's where you also feel the most deeply seen, the most deeply known. Somebody who sends Erik a text or shows up to his house and looks him in the eye and tells him he loves him, that's a rich conversation. That's a deeper conversation than probably you have 5 years ago, absent of ALS. Mm-hmm. So I think suffering is a paradox. That's one thing I've learned is we are very vulnerable to not feeling seen. And we are also sort of thrust into this environment where we are deeply seen and deeply known and deeply understood. And I'll share a story of something that's transformed my perspective of what exists in the world to come and beyond the veil. And Erik and I were just talking about this on the way home. We were at his 50th birthday party. It was at Ogden High School. He had ALS. It was sort of a bittersweet moment. And I walked out to the car to get something, and I came walking back in, and I just saw Erik, and he was talking to people, and my heart just broke. And I just felt sad, and I thought, oh, I wish we weren't here on his 50th birthday dealing with ALS. And then a song that we grew up listening to and loving, it's by Don Williams, and it's Lord, I Hope This Day Is Good. That song came on, and as I was walking into this venue, my whole perspective transformed. You talk about perspective and what you see and feel and hear. And we are a family that believes in ministering angels. We believe that our ancestors are close by and care about us. And we've felt that. We've felt ancestors come close to us. But this experience at Ogden High School, it was as if dozens just suddenly pierced the veil. And we're just ministering, and I just thought, wow, we are not alone here. I felt so seen. I felt so heard in a time when I was kind of feeling bad for myself 5 minutes earlier. And I thought, wow, what we see is not all that exists in this world and in a world beyond the veil. And it was such a transformative piece that it's shaped my entire life. So I think that before we go to you, Erik, one thing I would say is, in watching Erik, how impressed I've been in his own suffering is how much he sees other people still. He talks about how back when I was a competitive, he's like, I was competitive and I only cared about winning. Baloney.
Well, I didn't only care about it, but
he has always loved, he's always seen people. He has a gift unlike any other to see you. From the time he's ever coached to the time he's ever really existed, I think that his competitive spirit has moderated over the years. So that's maybe quieted. But his ability to see you, I think you're seeing it right here today. When he's talking, he sees you, he knows you, he cares about you. And I can't think of a more debilitating disease than ALS. And yet, over the last year or so, how many people have opened up to Erik and gone to him and saying, this is what I'm dealing with. This is what I'm battling with. And Erik's empathy, Erik's compassion has just augmented. It's skyrocketed. I've never seen somebody who is more sympathetic, more compassionate, more empathetic to people's plight. And they feel that, and it's a magnet. It causes people to want to just share and just kind of bask in his aura and his sense of seeing you.
It's funny you say that, and I want to hear your response to Erik. But before that, you guys, I mean, it's almost like we need to have you guys as a regular on the show, because you're literally saying all the same stuff Tyson and I are constantly talking about that we're trying to put out there to become like normal in just in the male side of the world, is that these things don't get talked about. And we talk about all the time of like, you attract the things you're putting out. And like, the more that we talk about this, the more messages we get from other guys. I just shared a message of a guy who said, I finally made that appointment to go talk to a professional about depression and anxiety issues that I've been struggling with. But he grew up feeling like he couldn't. So I love that this is the messages that you guys are bringing here. This is the message you guys stand for, because that's 100% of what we stand for, is that the more empathy, the more love, and the more understanding, and the more that you put out, the more it comes back to you. And sometimes it's overwhelming, I can imagine, of people coming and sharing their stories with you, because you become a beacon of hope. You become a beacon of love and light amidst everything that's going on. And I feel like applaud and praise you for that isn't even a strong enough word.
One thing I'll say about the importance of normalizing mental health and mental illness is at Weber State, I teach a class, and my students, they prepare and they present in front of everybody a crucible. And they talk for 10 minutes about a moment of struggle, of vulnerability, of pain, of suffering. And they walk us through that struggle, and then they cap it off with how that's been a triumph in their life. Up until 2 years ago, I didn't formally teach about depression and anxiety and mental wellness is specifically and really having a chapter that focused on it. A couple years ago, I shifted. And at the beginning of the class, we have heavy concentration on, we talk about depression, we talk about anxiety, we talk about normalizing mental illness and the struggles we face. And I went from probably 15% of my students maybe tiptoeing around depression to 75, 80% of my students talking about it.
Love that.
That's
Talking
amazing.
about it, sharing their story, leaning into it. And as men, one of the challenges we face is a lot of us feel sadness. It's not super socially acceptable to feel sad as a man. And therefore, sadness manifests as anger.
Yeah.
Right? If we bring in mental health professionals, they would say, people come into my office and they try to cover up their sadness with anger. And the more we talk about normalizing it, and I think this goes back to our conversation on gratitude. I can be grateful and devastated. I can be depressed and anxious and thrive in other aspects of my life. I can feel alive and love my world I'm in and battle my demons.
Yeah.
All at the same time. And that's normal and that's healthy. And the extent to which we normalize that, the more people will feel seen and heard.
Great job, brother. But I'll have to listen back to this when I'm struggling, which it seems like is every day at some point, to remind myself that this is how I feel, but in a strange way. Yeah. Man, I hate ALS so much. If there was one disease you could say, what are you the most afraid of? That would be it. So it really did put terror in my heart when I thought that's what I was maybe heading towards. And, but what I found through this suffering, and I'm grateful for all the people around me that have created an atmosphere, an environment where I could do this, but I feel I've had the most, growth as a person in the last 6 years of my life, specifically the last 3. And I think there's a lot of joy that comes to a person through growing and reflecting and getting better and seeing that your relationships are better. My relationship with my wife is the best it's ever been. My relationship with my kids is the best it's ever been, with my siblings. My closeness to my Heavenly Father is closer. So those are the things I try to remind myself of when I'm really in pain, and that pain leads to sadness and anger and all that comes with that. And that intense fear of the future, as with ALS, that's the slippery slope. It's like, today's the best I'm ever going to feel in the rest of my life, and then tomorrow's going to be worse. So to mentally deal with it, every day, you get anxiety about, how am I going to sleep? How am I going to deal with tomorrow? What's it going to look like in a month from now, a year from now, whatever. That I found I can find, I wouldn't say it's happiness and joy as much as it is. And I found that this feeling is equal to, maybe even more important than those feelings, that I can find peace when I reflect and think, well, I'd like to think without this disease, I could have got there. But I've definitely grown as a person because of this, affliction and this, trial in my life. So I'm grateful that I've been surrounded by people that have helped me have that growth, and that it didn't turn into resentment and bitterness and anger. And that's where I think what my brother's talking about is, I feel all those negative emotions every day. And I've gotten so much better at controlling your mind instead of going to, quickly becoming sad or angry or resentful or whatever, that I can notice that I'm doing that. And sometimes I might cry for a while, and I might just doing it for a little bit. But to have that, a perspective of I love and trust my Father in heaven, and He's going to place people in my life to help me get through this. And I'm already seeing that I'm growing and I'm having an ability to still influence and help others. So to just let go and trust is hard, because, you know, the thing that what's waiting for you is the thing you're the most afraid of. It brings a lot of pain and sadness and anger in your life. But that's been a great, lesson to me, is that I wonder if at some point, after I'm gone, that I would be able to see that this disease brought growth in me that I'm going to be eternally grateful for. And that if through that, my relationship with specifically, my wife, Sky, who's amazing, I love you so much, and my boys and my brothers and sisters and my family, if that was enriched and grew to places that it wouldn't have gone without this suffering, that having that relationship not only here on earth but for eternity to be better because it was refined, is something that I really try to focus on to give me peace and lessen my anxiety and let go and try to have a bigger, as my brother would say, maybe 100-year view that, at some point I'll be gone, my wife will be gone, my kids will be gone, we'll be back together. And, did we make the most of the time together, and did we grow as much as we could, I think will be more important than how many years we had together here on the earth.
So, you guys are getting me. Some of the proudest moments of my life as a father have when they came to me and were vulnerable, and they got to choose, like my son choosing to go on a mission. That was huge for me. And specifically the last 3 years. Sorry, we're changing gear. Because kids, like, I have 6 kids. You have 5. You have 3. They're everything. Can you tell me some of the proudest moments you have had about your kids since this has happened?
Well, you're really trying to get me to plan out.
No, I'm sorry. Like this is like, I've never done this. I'm not joking. This is new to me.
Oh, my boys are so amazing. One of the biggest fears I had is I know and understand what a devastating disease can do to a family, especially kids, especially in their formative years. Not having their dad to be like the other dads and eventually be gone, and how that could put resentment in their heart, or, depression, anxiety, not doing well in school, not thriving, all the things that would come with it. And again, just so grateful to a community, the family, and I think a testament to the relationship that my wife and I really tried to build with our kids, where they feel seen and heard and valued, and loved and celebrated. And, really to me, probably the best gift my parents gave me was they always believed in me. That I could do something that I cared about if I put my mind to it, and they would, support me. So to see how my boys have responded to this without resentment, with humor, they thrive in school and with friends and with sports and the things they care about. So in general, I'm so, grateful and proud of them. But really each one my son Kyre chose to come to Ogden with me. And I think he would tell you too that it changed his life. I think the more I think back about it too, I think that this is a little different. This is a subject here, but I've really connected with my kids through sports because I love sports and they love sports. And I coached at one point all of them on a team, junior jazz, whatever it was, called baseball. And you think you're teaching them a skill and trying to get them better at sport and maybe get some friends and, fit in and feel part of something. All those things are important in sports. But for me, and this is something I'm so proud of and grateful for, I coached all my kids from the youngest years up in everything they did, t-ball, whatever. And it wasn't about making them the best player or winning the games, whatever. But I have such great fond memories of the relationship we were able to build because of the car rides before and after. And really that, youth sports, to me, is an amazing way for fathers to connect with their kids if they make it be about the connection and not about how good they were and did they start and how many goals did they score and why did the coach not play you or this, that, or the other thing. And so that's been a huge blessing in my life where I really know my kids. I've seen what they're like when they're really disappointed, when they're really happy, when they're proud, when they feel like they failed, when they feel like they didn't fit in or they didn't like their coach or they love their coach, and to be able to talk with them during those times and bond with them and have them know, and I think they all know, how much I love them and appreciate them. They're so different. I have 3, bracelets on my wrist right now that they made me for, a couple of years ago when we were doing some crafts. And my youngest put FIF because he says he's the fastest in the family. He's competitive. My middle one put athlete 1. He's the overall best athlete in the family. And my oldest put wide receiver 1 because he thinks he's the best football player in the family. So my boys have from shy to they can get salty to, carefree and happy. They have all these different personalities, super competitive, helpful, great friends. I'm just amazed that how did I help produce something that's so much better than me. And so, my wife obviously can take the most credit there, but that's been one of the blessings of this is that instead of thinking, I got to run my kid to rec baseball practice, that, I get to do this and how much longer will I be able to do this? The perspective that goes into also the relationships with your kids and the stories you share with them and the lessons you're trying to teach them and the modeling you're trying to do for them and really to help them focus on, worry about growth and not what you're getting. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Choose kindness over, anger and frustration. Be a good friend. How I try to respect and love, my wife and model that. All those things have been certainly heightened because of the diagnosis. And again, I have an ALS, and there's many things about my life that I dislike, but I'm so grateful that negative suffering came into our lives instead of becoming, a weed in the garden. It's become, I believe, my wife and my kids, a beautiful flower that are thriving because the relationships they have with their husband and their father and their mother are richer and deeper because you were kind of forced into a situation where, those things became at the forefront and, we're focused on more. And definitely I think in your life, whatever you focus on, it's going to get better. Maybe that's one, message I'd share to men out there is that, really lean into the relationship with your wife and with your kids. And I think it's important, whatever religion you're on or whatever you believe, that there's some sort of spirituality or you feel tied, to a higher being or a purpose or something. And when you really lean into that in your relationships with other people and trying to, give more than you're taking, that it's just the natural consequence of that is you're full of love and hope and gratitude, and it really helps not only other people, but you just as much when you're focusing on those things.
So my grandmother passed away from ALS. My mom's mom, Tyson. You just talked about your biological father passed from ALS. My grandmother wasn't. It wasn't until I was about 8 years old, and so my mom and all of her siblings were all adults. But the way that my mom talks about her mom, she's still like a little kid, So I don't know forgive me if I'm kind of jumping over you here on our list of questions for you, but I feel like everything you're talking about, like, this is very fitting. If you had to, knowing that this is going to be one of many, many things that you're leaving your children and your wife and your family to just review and keep this piece of you, thinking of my mom at this moment, of if she had the chance to maybe ask her mom, like, what's something you can leave me with? As a father myself, never having to, at the moment think of this question, speaking to your 3 boys, what's one thing that you would like? What's one thing that just kind of burning within you that you want to leave to them? Like, what's one thing that you'd love to say to them, or when they watch this back, something that you need them to hear over and over and over?
Yeah, there's a lot there. By no means, there's obviously not a perfect dad or husband, or I've a lot of things in your parenting that you regret, or you think, man, I wish I could have done this different or better. Sure. But my boys, I think no, and I believe to be true that they're always in my mind. And in my heart, and pray for them. I'm so proud of them, and that they would know to me 2 things. It'd be important that they know that they have a Father in heaven that loves them and knows them and wants what's best for them, and is going to place people in their life that they can help, and that's going to help them. And if they really believe and have faith in that, along with that they know how much I love them and believe in them, that whatever they face in life, I think if they believe in themselves and know how much their parents believe in them, and that they have a Father in heaven that loves them, that whatever path they go down and whatever decisions they make, that they can become, bring joy and peace and happiness to them. And really that's, what I hope for them is for them to have, that joy and peace that comes from knowing their parents love and believe in them, and that they're seen and they're heard and they matter. And man, they've been given so many talents. And my kids are going to do great things in this world. And of those things, I would hope, and I think that they know that the most important will be, the type of husband and brother and son, and father that they become is, the most important thing. And to always keep the main thing. This world right now, it's where, to me, there's these 2 battles going on. I think there's a lot of evil in the world that's like rearing its head, and this is what a man should really be, and a lot of things that are leading to negative things and addiction and sadness and depression and not feeling apart. But I think that there's a swelling too men like you guys that are saying, hey, no, men can be vulnerable, and we struggle with mental health. We're doing the best we can, and we can love others and serve others, and really looking at really what makes you happy. I think that battle is going on in the world right now, and I think that my boys aren't going to be at the forefront. Of what is good. And I'm pretty convincing person. I'm pretty sure I can convince my Father in heaven to be the guardian angels for my wife and my boys, and I look forward to seeing the growth that they have. But just they already know how much their father loves them and how proud I am of them, and that is tied. That's the one thing I sometimes worry about as a father. I don't want them to ever feel that their value is tied to how good they are at something, how much money they make, what their job is, how they good are at sports, how well they do at school, how smart they are, whatever. Those are all things that are circumstantial that you can't control, but you can really control the type of person you are. And when you focus on personal growth, the happiness that will come in your life, because I'm sure they're going to face, sorrows and trials in their life. I'm not sure what that would be, but I hope that I've been an example to them. Then when that comes, how to respond. Or been an example to them about that.
I love that.
Sorry, that's a long answer.
No.
I talk too much, but
I have one last question for you, and I'm sorry, you've just inspired so many thoughts in me. As a young father myself, I'm only 34. I'm the baby in the room, right? Like I still have babies. They're 6 and 8. And I know we have a lot of fathers that listen to this show, and this is going to be coming out right as, Father's Day weekend. Given your perspective and your diagnosis and what future you do have ahead of you, what would you what wisdom do you have for a father like me that hopes to have years to come with my kids? Like what can you share with me, like something to help me be a better father, to just give my kids everything I want to give them and give them the life that I want? Like, what can you give me something, if you can't get what I'm saying?
Yeah. No. And by no means am I an expert on that, but going through that and reflecting, and to me, as I kind of mentioned before, I think it's important that my kids know that no matter what they do, I will always love them unconditionally, and that I believe in them. And when they make mistakes, you can be in that moment and still have them believe in themselves and know that they're loved. And to me, the most important thing I've found as a parent that I would give advice to anyone is that in some way or some fashion, find a way to connect with your kid every day, 20 minutes, whatever it is, that doesn't have anything to do with how well they did in school or as sport, or did you get your homework done, or did you do this chore, that you're just having a conversation with them, that they feel. I would hope my boys feel that my dad thinks I'm cool, and he loves me, and he accepts me, and he sees the good in me. He's going to call out the bad when it's needed, but that they really feel that they have that person in their life. To me, building up that, credit per se, there's going to be a time you got to go to the bank and cash out, and I think having that credit with your kids beforehand, that there's that connections built, whatever that's through sports, conversation, games, choir, whatever, but that it wasn't really about what they were doing. It was about getting to know them, and that they feel, man, my dad really sees me, and he understands me, and he appreciates me, and he sees the talents I have, and he loves me, and he believes in me. To try to instill that. Now, that's tough. Because there's, they're messing up, they're being salty, they're doing things. Like, there's all these things as a parent that you got to do. But fortunately for me, I was modeled that by my parents. And I feel that I do my best effort to do that. And, if my boys grow up and they do that for their kids, and then those kids do it for those kids, to me, how could you make the world any better than that if you're just sending out people into it that are going to create other people and other people that are going to try to make the world a better place, and they're going to be, kind, good people that are focused on, growth and serving others, and not about serving themselves or trying to get ahead. And certainly, I'm not saying that those things aren't important. Again, I'm one of the more competitive people around, and I want to be successful. And, the few regrets I do have in my life, it would be when I lost sight of what was really the most important thing. And I got derailed by, trying to achieve, even if it was a good thing, that I didn't keep the main thing being my relationship with my kids and my wife.
Wow, thank you.
You guys are two amazing humans and very inspirational and loving, and I can honestly say that I'm so grateful that you're here. One last thing, Bryant. Since we have this platform and it's more of a public setting, is there anything last thing you want to say to your brother before we end?
Yes. I can't imagine what Erik's going through and what he's going to go through. I think without having ALS and being in his circumstance, it would be impossible to imagine that. I think my message to Erik would be, you're doing such a wonderful job. You're courageous. Your message is so powerful because it's about being willing to cry. It's about being willing to be vulnerable. It's about being willing to have a bad day and sit with that for a little bit. I think Erik is so hopeful, and he's talked about this before, as one of the reasons ALS has hit him so hard is it's the first thing that he's run into that he couldn't will himself past. That's a remarkable life.
Mm-hmm.
If this is the first thing you run into, whether it's your profession, whether it's your choice of companion, whether it's succeeding as a coach, whether it's competing in college football, when Erik was 12 years old, he was a 10-play kid.
Oh, wow.
He was the smallest on the team. He wasn't very big. He wasn't very good. He really was in a spot that was, he had to transform himself to go from a 10-play kid to a college athlete. And he learned in his life that if you grit it out and you're resilient and you're tough and you keep going, and when you want to quit, you don't quit. He learned that if you do that, your challenges will go away. Not so with ALS. And I am remarkably impressed by his ability to shift and say, okay, I see that this is going to knock me off my feet every day of my life. And in addition to the physical pain it's going to cause me, the emotional fear and terror and anxiety are going to be inevitable in his life. And he has been so strong and so resilient, and realize that there's a shift, that we go from being pretty independent to more dependent. And that means feeling more. It means leaning into vulnerability, and that's exactly what he's done. It means pleading to our Heavenly Father to heal him and having the faith to not be healed. It means when you want to turn bitter and you want to hate and you want to be mad at things, still relying on gratitude and still relying on love. I was just watching a video clip the other day where Erik's talking to his team after a big playoff win against a rival team. And his message to them is that love is more powerful than fear. And that is what Erik has taught me. That's what he's teaching the world, really. And I can't imagine the stage you have to be on to do that, where you are at some point in his life, and Erik and I are pretty eyes wide open on this. At some point in his life, his means of communication will be blinking.
Mm-hmm.
And life will be hard. And he'll feel lonely. And things are not going to get easier for him in mortality. And his courage and his resilience and understanding that it's a softer form of grit. It's, to me, there's great wisdom and there's great strength in the person who says, I need help. I need a counselor. I need a therapist. I need to cry on someone's shoulder. I need to break down. I need to lose my shit. And I need to feel, in order to help this sadness pass through, in order to help me. There's a great power in crying. When we cry, our cortisol leaves. One of the best things I've discovered in just the last couple of years is how good I feel after a nice cry. Yeah. I used to resist it and like, be tough, be tough. I'm like, oh man, that feels good.
Yeah.
And it just flushes you, and it's super manly to do. I think one of the things that Erik and I are so blessed to have is we have a father who was a college athlete, who's 6'4", 250, and a high school coach. And throughout our growing up, we were always told it's okay to cry. And it's okay to ask for forgiveness, and it's okay to apologize. And it's okay to not have all the answers. And it's okay to not feel like you can do it all on your own, and help will come rushing through. That's what I am so impressed about with Erik, is that he has relied on the need for help. And, Erik, by his disposition and nature, has not been super embracing of a therapist.
Yeah.
And he's turned the corner on that, and he loves it, and he leans into it, and he sees the value in that. And I think that he is not only helping himself and his own well-being, but he's sending a powerful message to the world of vulnerability, of gratitude, and our need to rely on other people for support.
Love that.
Thanks. I said this at the showing, and I didn't want to get too much into it, but the real hero in this story is my wife, Scott. Love you so much, babe. Caregivers to people in situations like mine, man behind the scenes, the amount of things that she has to do for me, any pain that I experience mentally and emotionally, she's right there with me, and we share that together. And it's equally hard in different ways. Babe, I'm so proud of you. You are. I know one of the things that gives me such great peace and joy is that I know my Father in heaven really loves and understands me by the companion he led me to that's in my life to help me not just survive, but to thrive during this time. And how grateful I am to you. Sky will always be Thompson Tough, and you'll always be the coolest person I've ever known. And just so grateful for you. I love you so much.
I've got to know Sky a little bit through text messaging and talking to her, and she is one of a kind. She's amazing, and she's very, very friendly. Like when I went and met you the first time up at the in Ogden High and at the video. She's, oh yeah, let's go meet him. And all this kind of stuff. She's just plowing through everyone, and I'm like, who is this lady? She is so nice.
Well, she speaks her mind.
Oh, I love it. She's just so
and
nice.
Just her willingness to just without complaint serve me and our kids, and the amount of things have been put on her plate that she has to deal with. I'm talking about someone not complaining and rising to the challenge and being and thriving is definitely definition of my wife. And I already love you so much, babe, and every day I love you more. And I am grateful, even though I hate this disease, that to me, the most important things I could do in this world, to me, as far as my beliefs, would be to come to a knowledge that I have a Father in heaven, and to love and serve him, and to find my eternal companion, and to be a good parent that would raise kids that could go out and do the same. And, in my mind, those three things have happened, and they are the most important and just precious things to me. And I'm so grateful that my Father in heaven allowed me to, meet Sky and to raise three boys with her, and all the fun that comes with that. And, there's a lot of heartache and trials right now, but that also, there's nothing like shared sorrow that brings someone together. And that is certainly a silver lining and a blessing that I didn't know would come because of this, that has. And, it takes two people to tango, per se, and Sky, you're the rock, and I love you, and thanks, babe.
That's amazing.
I can't. I speak for Tyson too, and for Tommy. Like, I can't thank you guys enough for spending the time to come out here. I feel like we could sit here all day. This is absolutely the longest episode we've ever done, and I'm extremely grateful for that.
It's amazing
because we regularly get, especially when we have amazing guests on the show like you guys, we get messages of like, that wasn't long enough. So thank you for helping us kind of fulfill that need.
Message this time.
You're so
I still don't think this was long enough.
You get that Thompson guy to shut up.
No,
your wife did say you do talk a lot.
But one of the biggest things that we do with that Bods and Beards is not only is to just get these messages out there, is that we want to highlight and put people on pedestals that are pushing the same messages that we do, because we need more of that in the world. So where do we find Thompson Tough? Where do we find you, Eric? Like, what social media links? We're going to link all of this with our stuff on social media as well.
Where can we find if we want to financially help and stuff like that?
The people that are listening, we want them to know.
Well, I think we have a website, thompsontough.org. I think on there they could probably find the Venmo or whatever, and you can post whatever we give you. And my wife has, Thompson Tough and Instagram, and she films and puts stuff on there. But, we've really been overwhelmed with the amount of people that have stepped up and helped us out. And we're so grateful for that. And we certainly don't have any expectation. Sometimes we feel, gosh, people are sick of hearing about donate to the Thompsons or whatever. But whether it's been $1 through Venmo or large sums through a golf fundraiser, we legitimately financially couldn't do it without the help we've got. And we're in a good place because of all the love and support, and we're so grateful for that. But really, to me, the most important thing is, the love and support that my family has felt from, everyone in our lives to help us get, not only through this, but as I said, to thrive and not just survive, to me is the most important thing that's happened. And just, grateful for those texts and phone calls and emails and, hugs or whatever it may be, that's equally important to our, survival. So I'm just grateful.
Well, thank you.
One thing that might be helpful, Eric, is if you were to share with the viewers what Thompson Tough means. I heard you explain that a little while ago, and I loved your answer.
Well, someone asked me once what that meant. And I'm like, so you got to kind of think about it. So my wife actually was honored by a group as kind of like a caregiver of the year a couple months back. And, it was a women's group, so there was going to be no men there, and they were going to introduce her. And I kind of heard about it through my sister. So I wanted to kind of write the bio or the, I wanted to introduce my wife so they knew how amazing she was. So, in that, as I was thinking about it, I said that, Thompson Tough means, I love you more. And not that I love you more than you love me, but I love you more than, the darkest days we've had, whatever dark days are coming, whatever trial or negative thing that comes in our life, that we love each other more than that, and that we know we'll get through it. So,
Dude,
and that goes for, everyone in the Thompson Tough family, which is a lot. We've felt that from them as well, that they love us more than the hardness of the trial that we're going through, and that definitely resonates with our family.
Can we use that? Like, I really like that. I'm like really grateful you said that. I love you more than what's about to happen or what's going through. I'd love that. My wife and I had a hard time with a child of ours, and really, really hard. Where we almost lost her, and not that our marriage was in shambles or by any means, but something like that, shook us. And I love you more. That's strong. That I really, really like. Like, I got chills, man. Like, it's really, really good.
Well, I think that's we tend to like to. I guess we've started kind of leaving some challenges with some of these episodes, and we end. And I think that's perfect. With it being Father's Day weekend, and we have a lot of fathers that listen, and we have a lot of people who play the role of father in their kids' lives, whether that's physically a man. We have a lot of single moms. We have a lot of grandparents, uncles, guardians, people who have stepped up and adopted. So if you play the role of father in any way, shape, or form this weekend, lead forward with Thompson Tough, and I love you more.
Dude, that's so good.
So thank you guys from the bottom of my heart and Tyson's heart and Tommy. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. It means the world to us. If you have a chance, please give us a 5-star review, as well as write something a little pretty in there so that we know that you know that we know that you care. Anyway, have a great day, guys. I can't do it.
Dude, that was good. I like that. You can't redo it without laughing. That was good.